Good morning. Welcome to Stoic Strategies. We are so happy to have you here today at the historic Lullaby Sherman United Methodist Church. My name is Reverend Attorney Aaron McLeod. I'm the senior pastor of Sherman United Methodist Church, founded over 103 years ago by a domestic worker here on the North Shore of Chicago, particularly in the city of Evanston, where after her work week, she organized fellow domestic workers to start a church to worship God in spirit and in truth. And on today, in our endeavor to champion leadership, to champion outreach, reflective of my leadership here as a senior pastor of a church, our chair, Vanita Fields, a celebrated business leader, we are here to present Stoic Strategies. With that, the Stoic team is founded by Mr. Peter Lopresti, a accomplished business leader on an international scale. We are here to have our first home buying seminar where we are engaged in an educational endeavor to encourage people, particularly in this locale, to go from renting to owning. And for those who already own, which most people do in this area, to champion the cause of providing high quality housing for those who are in need, whereby you can be a landlord, and there are meaningful tools for you to do so. So at this time, as we begin our program, we're going to have three members of the Stoic team, Peter Lopresti, Peter Gitis, as well as myself, Attorney Aaron McLeod, Reverend Aaron Attorney McLeod, present. So the first speaker who we will have this morning is our founder, Mr. Peter Lopresti. He is a native of Chicagoland area, grew up in Schiller Park with his parents, both educators, and he went off to the University of Chicago and excelled, and then did some more excelling at the University of Illinois of Chicago as a PhD, MD candidate, where he excelled in his research in medicine and artificial intelligence. And then he caught this bug. He really got a cool opportunity to get in on the ground floor of Airbnb, and he was the czar of Airbnb in the country of Costa Rica. His father is the consulate to Costa Rica here in Chicago. He has served as honorary consulate. He's also co-founder of Samaritan Lawyers and the president of a meaningful nonprofit emerging, 2 years old, Samaritans for the Common Good, to champion issues of advocacy for those who are immigrating here to our country and need high quality legal assistance. So at this time, we introduce to you the founder of the Stoic team to provide context of how we have come here, what we're going to do, and then from there, we'll hear from Peter G., a lender par excellence with over 35 years of experience. And then I will come and talk about the legal aspects of home ownership, and we comprise the Stoic team. Peter.
Thank you very much, Pastor Aaron. It's an honor to be here at Lula B. Sherman. It's very much an honor to be here also in my career as well. So Aaron did a great job of letting everyone know of all my past successes and accomplishments. And actually, I'm wearing here a pin of the state of Illinois from in 2019, when the state of Illinois paid me to go to the south of France at MIPIM, which is the largest international real estate developers conference, to bring business here to Illinois. And I say that not to aggrandize myself, but more so just to say that I have been to those places and I've learned the things that are to be learned from being in businesses of that level. And it is very fun to help someone who already has a lot of money make an extra $10 million or $1 million. But at the end of the day, the thing that really sticks with me, at least personally, is helping someone have housing security, or helping a family get to the first $1 million in their family name. That's probably going to have a bigger impact on their family and their friends than helping someone who already has $100 million get their 101st million, right? And so thinking with that, and having the privilege of being able to study at the University of Chicago, internationally represent large organizations and institutions in my own private company itself, to be able to come back and say, how could I be a better member of my own community, and how can I create opportunities for other people like myself? I was very fortunate to study at the University of Chicago. I think it cost $70,000 a year. I think that's more than what my dad made as a public school teacher, right? I did not pay that. I was very fortunate to have a scholarship. And even when I was going through my education, it was funny. All the scholarship kids, we all kind of knew who each other were, and we're looking out for each other. And I feel like now that I'm at this late stage in my career, I want to look out for each other again. I want to make these opportunities available to everyone, and to make sure that they are for you. And that's what the point of this is. Everyone who's here in person, this opportunity is for you. Everything that we're talking about is for you. It's for your friends and your family. It's for the people that you know and love. I loved being in medicine. I loved doing biomedical research. The first thing you learn is that you can't work with any of the people that you know and love. You can only work with people who have certain degrees and certain positions and everything like that, which was very fun, and I enjoyed publishing original research and being able to have that information, contribute unique information to the world. But when that unique information isn't helping the people that you love the most in your community, it feels a little empty at the end of the day. And so that's the whole point behind of what we're doing. So I feel like we go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about our work. So we're very proud to be a part of the PEWS, which is Protect Evanston, Wilmette, and Skokie. This is a nonprofit organization here in the north side of Chicago that's sent to try to protect the people who are most vulnerable in the community. We've been working last year more so with immigrant rights, simply because of the very immense and urgent need to protect immigrants that we had in the past. Now we're looking to provide economic opportunity for people as well, right? So this is kind of the idea of, yes, we'd like to help people when they're in a crisis, but we also want to help people get into nice and safe and strong economic situations as well. And so for that reason, as you can see, we're a part of Samaritan Law and Samaritans for the Common Good. That was our efforts that we started last year, and we're going to continue doing this year to help the immigrant community in these areas. But this year, we are partnering to create opportunity for people, not just defending people, but creating opportunities for people, because we think it's both. A part of of creating a strong community is being there when they need you, but also setting them up in a way that maybe they're not going to need you so much, right? Make sure that they have the things that they need. And that's what we're trying to do here. Really, this started off with the collaboration with the government of El Salvador. It's very hard for people who are undocumented to be able to rent, because when you submit a rental application, the first thing they want is your social security number. They want your work history, they want references. These are things that immigrants don't really have when they come to the United States, and so it's very difficult for them to find a place to rent. We did a study, which again, we did this pro bono. No one paid us to do the study. We just wanted to, it's, how can I say this? When very rich people have problems, you're motivated to solve them because you know there's a lot of money gonna come to you at the end. Sometimes when your community has a problem, you still need to solve it, but sometimes there's not a lot of money, if any money. Sometimes it actually costs you money to help your community. And so that's where this effort really came from, El Salvador. We were asking the question, if it is difficult for people to rent, is it actually easier for them to purchase? And as we started investigating into this question, we realized it is. It's easier to purchase than it is to rent in the United States with all these special, now again, without these programs that again, Peter's gonna explain to you, and that he's the lender. Oh, I'll let that go by. Perfect. So Peter Georgitis, he's the lender, and so at the end of the day, I am kind of stealing a little bit of his thunder, because at the end of the day, he's the one that gets the mortgage, he's the one that makes the whole thing possible. But again, to be able to work with someone like Peter and myself to come up with these unique solutions for the community that, again, we're not here to become rich off of this, we're here to try to just create a stable path and a realistic path for everyone to become a homeowner. Because what we discovered in our research with the government of El Salvador, even if you help someone get a rental, within 5 years, on average in Chicago, the rent will have gone up so much that that family can't even afford to stay in the same apartment, that even if by miracles of miracles you're able to get them a rental without a social security number, they can't even stay there for more than 5 years on average. What we found is when we help people purchase the property, use all the government incentives, all the private incentives, and then also help them manage it in a very responsible way, that you are more likely to, number one, get the property, and number two, stay in the property, because that's another part of it as well. You can't pretend to create a community if everyone's gonna be pushed out within 5 years. You need to be able to have someone who can buy something and be able to maintain it and stay in there for the long term. And so these are the strategies that we're gonna go over here. So we call them the Stoic strategies, or the Stoic series. Every single month, from here on out forever, as long as we can keep having our valuable partners partner with us, we're going to be able to create new opportunities, create new strategies. Maybe all the strategies aren't going to be relevant for you right now, but we want everyone to know that they exist. We want people to know that these programs exist, that they are for you, and that you're able to get these done. And then again, everyone who's over here and everyone who's joining us online, we very much consider you guys our evangelists, right? This information is for everyone. So just because you're not physically here right now, or even if you're not watching this live online, this information is for you. The idea for it to be a Stoic strategy is a strategy that's applicable in many different situations. And so just because we're the ones here that are offering it to you, even then, always feel free. If it's someone else on the Stoic team that's not here right now, if they're part of the Stoic team, they've already signed the agreement to make sure that we're putting community first, and they're going to be able to offer you all these same opportunities that we're talking about today. Perfect. So let's go a little bit about what the home buying process actually looks like. So the first step is to meet with a real estate professional. So everyone here, you already checked off the first checklist over there. You've met myself, right? I'm the realtor. I'm the person who's going to show you the properties, help you set up the search. And Peter Georgitis is the lender, so he's going to be able to get you the financing. And then in the back, again, we have Pastor Aaron. His law firm is the one that does all of our asset protection for our clients, and they make sure that all the legal work is correct for you. So with me, you're number one, you've already met us. Number two, get pre-approved. That is Peter Georgitis, who's right behind me. Search for homes, that's me. I'm gonna be the realtor that's gonna show you to see the properties. Number 4, that's also with me. We're gonna do an analysis of the property to go ahead and make the offer. Number 5, the negotiation and the contract. Once they accept our offer, we go into something called attorney review or escrow. Number 6. At that point, the attorneys are gonna make sure that everything is legally perfect, not just physically perfect, which is kind of more of my domain. And then at that point, we go back to number 8, where we have the closing at a title company. And so these are kind of the 8 steps of purchasing a home in the United States. And again, we're not talking about it today, but you can use that exact same mortgage and loan in theory to get up to a 4-unit building. So if anyone who wants to not just buy a home, but even buy a home and become a landlord at the same time, we're able to do that, right? And it's because Peter's bank only does mortgages. You can't get a checking account, you can't get a savings account. They only do mortgages, so what that means is they do every type of mortgage you could possibly dream of under the sun. So whereas other people and other banks try to kind of push you into the products that they have that are more convenient for them, you could tell poor Peter's been doing this for 30 years, and if every wrinkle on his face is probably because of a client that I've sent him, that he is trying to figure out how to be able to make everything work for them. But again, we only want to partner with people who want to work with you as an individual and figure out what works for you, as opposed to try to just push you through. So even then, again, the whole theory of this, we're going to be presenting these Stoic strategies because we want you to know everything that's available. We never want to push you to do anyone that you're not interested in. And again, like myself, I've been doing this for 15 years. I have at one point used all of these Stoic strategies that we're going to be presenting. I've never used them all at the same time, but again, successful management, successful ownership looks like this type of plan that you can execute reliably for the rest of your life. Perfect. So there's the roadmap, right? So it's a journey. It's going to take somewhere between 2 to 4 months from start to finish to be able to identify a good property, get your financing and your grants and incentives all lined up perfectly, do the inspections that we need, and finally close on the property. So if you're on a month-to-month lease, you're perfect, right? Because we can just start the home search for you, and then whenever we find a home, you send the notice to your landlord, and there's no overlap. If you're on a year-to-year lease, please talk to us. It sounds silly, but I would love to talk to you even 6 months before your lease ends, so that then we're not rushing you through the steps. We can do everything on your schedule. Perfect. And so at that point, again, I'm going to hand it over to Peter Georgitis. He has been in this, I've been doing this for 15 years. He's been doing this for 35 years. His bank only does mortgages, so don't ask him about credit cards or anything like that. He doesn't know about it, and we don't want him to know about it because we want him to know about a million different mortgage products. So without further ado, let's give a nice warm welcome here to Peter Georgitis.
Appreciate that, Peter. Thank you, Aaron, also. And wow, how do I follow up that with both Peter and Aaron? What a great job both of you have done. So I am the lender of the group. My name is Peter Georgitis. I'm from Chicago. I have a family. I live in Park Ridge. But getting to the point of why we do these things that we do, the thing for me and for the group is that we are same-minded thinking people, that we want to help people grow. And it's not the benefit of just a few of individuals, but of the greater good. That's what we're here for. So one of the things that I've always take pride in is I'd rather deal with people that need my help. There's a lot of people that understand the mortgage business, what mortgages are, but we try to change. And I know the word change has a negative impact sometimes, but this change is to help you feel comfortable through the process, where you don't feel like you're being pushed or you don't feel like you don't want to go in a direction. We just laid it out to you, and guess who makes the choices? You do. I'm a facilitator. My purpose is a servant. I'm serving the community. I want to make sure I reach as many people as possible to reach this goal. So if you want to make me happy, hopefully you do, make you happy. That's the goal, okay? So first of all, I'm not a bad guy, meaning I provide the money, I provide the service, so my goal is to say yes to everything. So my opinion is that every person is different. It's just like a fingerprint, every situation. So when people say to me, oh, my auntie couldn't do this, or my brother happened to this, or this happened to a guy, or I read this, all those things possibly are true. but we really want to clarify it with you as an individual. So that's why if you take anything away from our session today, is that it's about you and only you, okay? So my job is to provide mortgages, but it goes beyond that. So I start the process of talking to individuals. So what we had earlier was a roadmap. So I do the finance part, but I also ask questions during the pre-approval stage. So one of the things that Peter pointed out earlier is there's really 3 types of loans in our country. VA, if you're a vet, that's the best program. It's no money down, and the government has changed their attitude towards vets, meaning they just roll out the red carpet. They'll help as much as they can. They extend, they're more forgiving on credit, and they want the vet to have a home. And then also other down payment programs is at USDA. That's really more if you have farmland, but that's a program they can put no money down. And then conventional and FHA up there, so you have to have choices. So conventional and FHA, if you're not a vet, is a choice. And each one of those have their own special guidelines. And my job when we go through the pre-approval stage is when I ask you questions or I identify the situation with you individually, I figure out which program is best for you. At the end of the day, we want to get the mortgage. And so we have to figure out what's the best solution for you. So at this point, you don't have to come up with the answer. I come up with the answer, and I give you the guidance. Next slide. Okay. Technical difficulty. That's all right. So getting back to the programs during the pre-approval stage, one of the things that we should talk about that people are worried about is their credit or debts that they have. So one of the things that we walk through is your income, your assets, and there's programs that we have. If you don't have enough money saved, because it's really hard these days because prices are going up and it's hard to save, we do participate in programs like the state has a program called IDA, where they provide a down payment assistance. Thank you. So, well, perfect timing. There's the first slide, IDA. So there's programs with IDA where you can borrow up to $15,000 in certain situations and $10,000. And so you might have the down payment on those programs. And there's other ways that Peter Lepresi, the realtor, can negotiate sometimes closing costs with the seller. And those are things that, we are a little creative with that. And then the other thing is that we have, varied programs for different people. So if you're in the medical field or first responder, we have programs from them also specifically in assistance. Next slide, please. Again, when you can call me, we can talk about this as an individual. So I'm just going to walk briefly when we meet together to do what's called pre-approval, I'll ask you questions about your job. What I'm looking for is a consistency, if you've been on the job for 2 years. Now, if you've changed jobs multiple times in 2 years, that's okay. That's what I do. I try to figure out how to put the file together to make it sound solid to an underwriter that will approve our loan. So I'm just explaining what information I'm looking for. So I'm gathering documents about your income. I'm looking for stability. If not, we have to explain what happened to the situation. Money, assets, if you have money saved, if you can get a gift, or we have to do an IDA program. Or Peter Lepresi, I can encourage the seller to pay your closing costs. And then the third piece is I pull your credit. Now, most people, this is where they feel uncomfortable because, maybe they're uncomfortable giving me their information, but this is the most critical part. And everything's critical, the money and assets, but when I pull credit, I look at it objectively with an open mind. I want to look to see that your debts that you carry and your score. The score is really important. And minimally can go to 580 on an FHA loan, and we can do the programs with IDA at 640. Now, when I pull credit, the first thing I do is make sure that I get you to a level that I want that you benefit. I want to do things where you get the lowest cost, the lowest rates. And that objective, unfortunately, the system is driven by a score. But again, if you have low scores, you're not going to get penalized because I'll figure out a way that will benefit you. So, so we'll go through the credit. Now, there's no cost to you for doing a pre-approval. It's goodwill. I pull the report. And then even if your scores are not where I want them to be, and because I encourage you to be, we'll have a plan to put you in there. If you come to me and your scores are low, I'll put you in a program that you eventually can buy. I will never say no to you. I'll tell you, at this time we can't do this thing, but I'll give you a plan. And it's up to you. That's all it's about. It's about you. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Great question. Great question. The question was, the concern is if when I pull credit, will it have an impact on their score negatively where it drops down? So what I do initially, it's called a soft pull. And what you're calling that is a true incident, that is true, what you're saying, is more of a hard pull. I do a soft pull. And let's take a step back. History lesson. So in 2007 and 8 and 9, we had something called a housing crisis. You know, it was unfortunate, and we had a recession, so it was very negative. And what came out of that negative situation was the federal government realized what went wrong. Why we can't have this happen again. You know, and they put things in place for that, hopefully not to happen ever again. But one of the things they realized is that people said, I didn't know how I got my rate. I didn't know, you know, certain things, and they didn't know, and that's driven really by your score. So now I'm intended to pull the score. And you're right, initially when this rule came out, people did a hard pull and it had an impact. And the other thing is, if you're buying a car, be careful. That's the worst in the sense where they pull your credit multiple times and they don't tell you, so be careful. Yeah. That's a side note. But anyways, nothing negative about car guys. But anyways, back to the mortgage piece. So when I do a soft pull, it has no impact. But the blessing is I get your score, I have a plan in place, and if your scores are great, we don't have to talk about it. We'll just move forward. I know your debts then. Thank you for asking the question. Next slide. Okay, so that was the end of my portion. Peter, you're back on? And thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. And so we structure like this just so that everyone can kind of understand on a human level what it's like, right? So we're all part of a team, but at different phases in the process, you're gonna be talking to different parts of us. In addition to that as well, so we have something called transaction coordinator. What they are is basically your personal assistant. And so we pay for someone on our team to be your personal assistant, and they will call you once a week, and they will help you do anything that you need to do to get to the next stage as well. So, you know, we know some people like to be, you know, I have some clients who, because I get to see their activity, I see that they're saving homes at 3 in the morning and that they're making big life decisions at 2 in the morning, right? So, you know, if that's the type of person that you are, we're happy to work with you like that. But additionally, though, if you're the type of person that, again, would like kind of a little more guidance, or even, like I said, a personal assistant, you know, we all are busy with our lives. It's nice to be able to tell someone, can you do these 3 things for me, and then just check out at the end of the day, and they're magically done for you, right? So I like that a lot, so we like to provide that for our clients as well. And so this is a very important part, and this is actually the one slide I mentioned to some people here before, that buying a home now is different than it was even only a couple of years ago, right? And so one of these big changes is that the buyer's representation agreement is now legally mandated. What this means is that before I can show someone a property, we have to have in writing the fact that I am your agent and you are my client. And it has to be in writing before we can even go and look at properties. It is something that is different. So if any of you bought a year, you know, maybe 2 years ago or before, no one had to do this. So this is a completely new requirement. And in fact, today we actually brought the physical copies of the buyer's representation agreement so that we can go over it in person once we do the breakout sessions. Additionally, anyone who signs the buyer's representation agreement today, in addition to the $500 closing credit that you're going to get just for attending this educational seminar, we're also going to give you an additional gift of your choice at the closing table as well. So, you know, we had a client of ours just last year. She bought this beautiful home. She went from a condo to a nice little 2-story building with a backyard, and so we got her a nice fire pit, right? So, you know, we like to give nice home. We like to give presents to people to make them feel more at home in their new home, essentially, right? And the one thing about this buyer's representation agreement is that it's completely free to sign. It doesn't cost you anything. All it does is it says that you are hoping to purchase a property within 1 year and that you're going to be working with us for that year. If for whatever reason the right property doesn't show up or some plans change, just nothing happens basically. If you don't wind up buying the property during that 1 year, the agreement expires and then you're good to go. Again though, if you do want to start looking at properties outside of that 1 year as soon as it expires, we do have to sign another one to be able to go and see them because it's an issue with liability. If someone falls down in the house, is the insurance of the company going to cover it, or is it the insurance of the homeowner that's going to cover it? And so, just like in Chicago, or in the United States, it always boils down to a lawsuit about why we have to do things, right? So that's the situation there. Now, this is ZenList, and so this is an application that we developed with MRED MLS. And so this is an application that for the first time ever, I'm able to share my real estate license with you. And that's important because people who don't have real estate licenses are only able to see maybe about 70% of the properties that are actually available on the market. So this is a way where you're gonna scan that QR code. You could do it now or you could do it later, no worries. You'll create an account, it's completely free, and then you'll scan the QR code again and it'll ask you to request access to my license. We're also gonna help everyone here, and so once, everyone who's here, and if you haven't registered, we'll help you register because once you register, I put your information under automatically approved. So then as soon as you request the license, it'll see that you're already approved and you'll get access to my license immediately. And that's just a little bit of what it's gonna look like. So, you'll scan the QR code, it'll show you a picture of me, you'll go ahead and sign up. If you're someone like me, I hate having a million accounts. You can use an existing Gmail account if you already have one. You can use your existing Apple ID if you have one. You don't have to create another account, but if you do, you can do that as well. But the most important part is that blue button where it says Join Now. And that's what's gonna allow you to use my license to see everything that's actually on the market. Perfect. And then again, this is probably more for the people online. And so again, I see we have Elle and Gonzalo listed there. So for everyone who's joining us online, once we go to the breakout rooms, there's a virtual breakout room that Gonzalo, again, one of the people who serves as the transaction coordinators as your personal assistants, he's going to be talking to all the people who are joining us virtually. So let's talk a little bit about what it looks like, right? So again, at this stage in the process, you've met with Peter G. Again, for free, he's done a full credit analysis for you. If you need it, he already gives you for free, no cost to you, a full plan for credit repair to make sure that your credit's gonna be where you need to. Next, you come back to me, we sign the buyer's representation agreement, which gives us the legal right to go inside of these homes. And then we go ahead and we start scheduling what these properties are gonna look like. And so this slide is to let you know that there's basically 3 different types of properties or how we can go and see the properties. The most common one is open house. Open house is very convenient if you are renting your property to somebody else and you need to sell it. It's very hard to inconvenience the tenants many, many times to get them to do the private showings. So rather than inconvenience the tenants many, many times, you do one open house a week. With those situations, unfortunately, we have to go along their timeline and we just can only go when it's available. The ones that I like more are the private showings, and so of course, that's a situation where they allow us to go ahead and proactively schedule a time that works for you, that works for the client's time, which I think makes more sense personally, right? And those are 2 different kinds. There's one called the show and go, which is when the property is either vacant or if the owner lives in there, but it's a very flexible owner, all you have to do is send them a request in advance. They have to manually review it, and if it works for their time schedule, they'll say yes, and then we can go ahead and see it. It's beautiful because the private showing means that it'll just be us. We're not going to be with other realtors or their clients. We have a chance to view it just ourselves. The show and go is the best one. The show and go is, again, the one if it's empty or not. The Century Lock one, again, so if the property is empty, there are some that if you told me I want to see that property and it's show and go, all I have to do is scan my face and they see that I'm a realtor and I'm licensed, and then it opens the door for us and we can go and look at it like within 5 minutes of right now. So again, those are the most flexible ones, but again, it's only if the house is vacant. It's convenient, but it's not the most likely type to have to find, unfortunately. Perfect. Now, once you find the home that you like, this is the most important part, writing the offer. When you write the offer, it's important to do a comparative market analysis. Sometimes the property may be listed for way more than it's actually worth. Sometimes it's actually it's listed way less than it's actually worth. Here's an example from 6 months ago in the intersection between Pilsen and Little Village. So our client, she is someone who works at a nonprofit. She makes about $60,000 a year, which is, enough to qualify for a property. But, I don't think anyone would call her wealthy or disconnected from us in the working class, right? And so we were able to look at a beautiful 2-unit building. The owner had listed it for $320,000. We did a study and saw that it was worth around $380,000. And so we wrote an offer that said we are willing to offer $1,000 more than the other highest offer up to a certain dollar amount. And so she was able to win it. She wound up having to pay $350,000 for the building, which, if you don't understand how the comparative market analysis works, you could say, oh my gosh, it was listed for $320 and she paid $350,000. I can't believe that she did such a thing. Again, this was November of last year. Fast forward to May of 2026, so 6 months later, the county came and told her that her building is worth $443,000. That in 6 months, the value has gone up almost $100,000. So it is very much about understanding what the value of the property is as opposed to what the person who's selling it is listing it for. And of course, sometimes it works the other way around, right? If someone's listing a property for $500,000 and you see it's only worth $400,000, it'd be a huge mistake to offer more than $400,000. So it's very important to do the comparative market analysis in both directions to make sure that you're offering enough and also to avoid overpaying for the property as well. And then again, once the offer is accepted, so again, just to kind of go through the process, again, sorry for being so repetitive, it's meant to be first-time home buyer, so I want to make sure that everyone's able to follow it. So we go, Peter G gives you the pre-approval. He lets you know what the price point should be. You download the app for Zenlist so you can see all the properties with my license. Then we go ahead and we schedule the properties, we see them, and then we write the offer. Once we write the offer, if it's accepted, you have to give over what's called earnest money. Earnest money is about 1% of the value of the property. So if you're going to buy a house that's going to cost about $400,000, you should set aside about $4,000 to be able to put as your earnest money. This earnest money goes towards your down payment and it goes towards your closing costs. Now again, if we're using a grant where there is going to be no earnest money or there's going to be no basically closing costs for you, then we're able to put the earnest money for a lesser amount, sometimes even zero if the seller is on board with it. But again, the earnest money I prefer putting some amount of money because once you give them the earnest money, they have to stop trying to sell it to other people. And so basically, once they cash your earnest money check, you know that you've kind of reserved that house for you and you're not competing with other people anymore. Perfect. And like I said, at this point, once they accept our offer, it opens attorney review, and this is where Pastor Aaron is his area of specialty. And again, one of the unique aspects of the Stoic team is that we have these personal assistants for all of our clients. And so as you can tell, going between Peter, going between myself, going between Aaron, it's sometimes, it's a little bit of a hectic situation, right? And we have to do this all within a few weeks. The same assistants that help us coordinate also help our clients coordinate. So, you don't have to worry about this. The assistants will kind of do this for you. But again, Aaron.
Thank you, Peter. So after Peter G gets you the pre-approval letter, and Peter goes out and finds a remarkable property with all these redeeming qualities, they send me an executed contract. And within the executed contract, they fill it out, they draft it, and then I lead what we call attorney review. We can go to the next slide. And so the attorney review, particular on the buyer side, next slide, is where I go and I draft an addendum to the contract to make sure that all of the necessary terms that aren't clear from the 8.0 standard contract are addressed appropriately. We are working to ensure that you get to the closing table and that you are executing a contract and purchasing a house whereby after it's done, all of your legal liabilities, all of the legal questions are handled and addressed appropriately. So after the contract is executed. Peter is representing the buyer. They're going to sign the contract and send it over. That's considered an offer. But the contract is not fully executed until it's accepted by the seller. Once the seller accepts the contract, we have a fully accepted contract. From there, the clock starts ticking. We have 5 business days to send out our initial correspondence of attorney review, whereby I'm going to send out a rider to that contract asking or demanding certain edits to that contract. Tax prorations. We may have on the contract 105%. Taxes are paid in arrears, and we have reassessment. This is a reassessment year in certain municipalities. So we're not going to settle for 105. We're going to ask minimally 110, depending on which suburbs, as high recently as 136. More specifically, we're going to outline the lines or the boundaries of communication. We'll accept emails, we'll accept phone calls, we'll accept text messages. From there, we want to know if there's any insurance claims on the property. And if so, we need you to disclose them. If you're buying a condo, I'm going to request a copy of the Homeowners Association documents, the bylaws, the declaration. I'm going to ask for their budget. I want to see if that homeowners association is insolvent, if people have been paying their condo fees, and if there's going to be any special assessments. And that's not just for condos, but you also have homeowner associations for single-family homes. We do not execute at the closing table without reviewing the homeowners association, because you are now liable, you are now bound to the common areas of your home or the common areas of your subdivision, which you now are responsible for. So through the attorney review process, we go through all of those things. In addition to that, within that 5-day period, we have 5 days to have the property inspected by what should be a licensed inspector from the state of Illinois. And so I'm working with our broker to get it scheduled within that 5 days. So what happens if if we can't get that inspection scheduled within the 5 days? We send out a simple addendum and give an appropriate explanation of why we need to go outside of the 5 days. It may be over the weekend, 3 or 4 days. The inspector that we want, he may have a schedule conflict within that 5 days, and we can't get to him until 7 days. As long as we send out that addendum, the other side agrees to it. 99% of the time, they're going to agree to it because they know that the buyer is entitled to an inspection. We go through, that inspector comes, and he's going to provide us an inspection report. And with that inspection report, he's going to go through that property thoroughly and assess what's the matter with the property. Now, mind you, I said, what's the matter with the property? Buying a home is not like buying a car. It's not like buying a TV from Best Buy. No matter if it is a brand new construction, there will be something the matter with it. Missing light plate, cracked window, those are all cosmetic things that are very inexpensive to fix. However, what we want to understand are there issues in 4 main areas: the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, and the foundation. Because if there are issues in those 4 main areas, we may have to go back and demand that the seller fix those things or demand a significant price reduction. Nonetheless, there's going to be something the matter with the property. That doesn't mean that you run, that doesn't mean that you get scared. But what it does mean is that we're going to have a licensed inspector review the property and make sure that we understand and that we're put on notice all of the defects. Then he's going to provide in that report a recommended summary of repairs that he thinks need to be repaired, the key repairs. What I do is I ask for all the repairs, all right? Knowing full well that the seller is not going to do all the repairs. But what it does is it allows us to leverage for increased closing cost credit. That could be as low as $100. That can be as high as 6% if it's a FHA or 3% if it's a conventional loan, to allow you to bring less money to the table. So if we get a repair credit of $3,000, that's not like they're coming to the table and they're going to give you a check for $3,000 or $3,000 cash in your pocket, but it's going to reduce the amount that you're going to have to put down on the down payment, or the money, what we call the cash to close. So we're done with attorney review. Once we agree on the repairs, once we agree on the contract addendums, from there, the appraisal takes place and we're waiting. I'm there to explain the documents at the closing table. I'm there interfacing with the lender, the broker, to make sure that our client is calm. This is not a sprint, it is a marathon. In addition to that, when we get to the closing table, I'm there with my assistant, we're going through, we're explaining the documents fully. Some of the documents you will have already seen because you have completed them electronically, like the homeowner's application, but at closing we need what we call a hard copy or wet copy, that signature. So we're there to explain those details at great length to ensure that you know what it is that you're signing. Now, I'm the attorney. I work for you. It is my goal to ensure that there's no angst, that there's no trepidation as we move forward. But when you have a team working with you, trust, it diminishes that angst as long as you tell us what your issues are, but in some instances, you follow the directions and do what we tell you to do, all right? So we have mortgage contingencies that are filled out, because normally on these contracts, they're gonna give us anywhere between 30 to 45 days. Some lenders say, oh, I'll get you closed in 10 days, right? And sometimes it happens, but on average, 30 to 45 days. But if we don't hit that 30-day mark, if we don't hit that 45-day mark, I have to draft a contingency addendum and to say, hey, give us an extra 7 days to get clear to close, and then another 3 days to close press that day. And what does that do? It protects your earnest money. And so let's talk about this thing called earnest money. Earnest money is for the benefit of the buyer. It protects you from allowing the seller to go out and find a more competitive offer. So in Peter's example, he said that the property was listed at $320. They made an offer for $350 and it was accepted. But what happens if Susie Q comes and makes an offer for $385? Do you not think that that seller is going to be enticed to take it? Yes, they will be, but they can't because of the earnest money, right? And so a lot of sellers think that the earnest money goes to them if you are not approved or if we have not met the mortgage contingencies. In a certain instance, that is not correct. It's still for the betterment or for the benefit of the buyer. Case law proves it. Now, we may have to dance, we may have to go and litigate that, but the reality is that even if you don't close, and we are at conflict about the earnest money, because to get the earnest money back, we have to sign what we call a mutual cancellation agreement. If we don't mutually agree, the buyer and the seller, then we have to go to some other measures. But more specifically, say they don't close. The earnest money is being held, and for some odd reason, the contingencies aren't sent out in a timely manner, which they will be with our software. If that seller goes and sells that property for the same amount, but more specifically a higher amount, the court is not going to allow them to take the sale price of what you contracted for, but more specifically the higher sale price, and keep your earnest money. They're not going to allow you to benefit twice. Just not, all right? So again, the earnest money is for the benefit of the buyer, okay? And so what we also offer, we'll go to the next slide, within our package is a bit of asset protection during the sales transaction. And so with that, for a discounted rate, we offer a land trust whereby you at the closing table can deed your property post-closing at the table to a land trust, whereby you are conveying the property to a trust. It's an entity that you own, that provides you anonymity, but more specifically, it also provides probate avoidance. So you can name at the closing table who will get your property when you transaction. The first beneficiary is you. So if you want to sell out of the trust, you can do that, all right? But more specifically, we don't want people to know on title because all ownership of the property runs with the deed, all right? And so it allows you to tell a truthful lie. We're going to tell a truthful lie in here today with the land trust, that you don't own property when in actuality you do. Why? Well, we deed the property to land trust number 568 or the Mississippi Chicago Land Trust, anonymous name. The only thing that we see on title is that the trust owns the property. The trust agreement that supports the property is private. It's not public. Nobody needs to know about it. But it will showcase that you are the owner and you can navigate that property as the owner of the trust. But more specifically, as you operate the trust, because it is a living, revocable trust that can be changed. That's what we mean by revocable. It can also help you if you ever need to secure Medicaid, Medicare benefits at the end of life. The clock starts tipping on what we call the Medicaid, Medicare spin down provision. So the state is not going to break that trust as long as it's in trust 5 years prior to you electing in those benefits, all right? So the trust is the way to go post-closing. And so in addition to that, we encourage, particularly in communities like Evanston, all right? Homeowners, show of hands, how many people here are homeowners? All right. Everybody in the congregation today is a homeowner, right? But one of the reasons why we came to this bedroom community is because we know that there has been flight of resource-challenged people who happen to be African American, who happen to be Latino. But more specifically, the ones who are here are homeowners and they are navigating their properties very well. How about you consider buying another property here in Evanston, another property here in Skokie, and becoming a high-quality landlord, not a slumlord, but one who provides quality housing. And what does it do? It increases your real estate portfolio. You are providing a quality service, but more specifically, you're being compensated accordingly to do so. When we talked about the young lady who went from renting to owning a 2-unit condo, not only did her property appreciate $100,000 in 1 year, her mortgage is being covered by the tenant plus some. So she's earning revenue and value. I've been practicing law for almost 20 years, particularly the majority of that time as a W-2 employee. In 1 year, I never, ever received a $100,000 pay increase. Does not happen. Arguably, unless if you're extraordinary, the market can't bear it. Unless if you are participating in real estate acquisition, okay? And so when we acquire these assets, we do what we call asset protection. We are layering with land trusts, holding companies, assignments, because nobody needs to know what it is that you own. You may say, well, Attorney McLeod, why are you being so secretive? Because it's nobody's business what it is that you own, all right? Because people will prey on you to find out what it is that you own. But more specifically, you can utilize the utility of the trust instrument to acquire more property. And you can utilize the management of the trust and the holding company entity to generate wealth and to generate revenue, all right? So when you're buying a property, Illinois is one of the few states that still require attorneys to be on transactions. Sometimes people try to be cavalier and do it on their own. If you look at other jurisdictions like Indiana, they do not require, but Indiana leads the country in real estate litigation. Allow the attorney to manage the risk for you. If I mess up, which I very rarely do, not that I'm perfect, but we have good systems, I also have malpractice. You want to lean on licensed individuals. And everybody on the Stoic team are licensed professionals with a tenure of practice as well as professional development required on an annual basis to provide you high quality services. All right? Peter.
Thank you so much, Pastor Aaron. But yeah, so that's essentially it. So that concludes walking down what the entire roadmap looks like. So it starts at the very beginning with a brokerage and negotiation with the earnest money, and then coming all the way down with the financing conditions. And so as well, during this attorney review period, keep in mind, I always like to try to emphasize, writing an offer isn't a commitment to purchasing. It's just signaling an intent that you would like to purchase it, that if all the details were perfect, I would love to purchase this home. This attorney review period as well, it protects you, so if we discover something that we don't like, we could go ahead and just say, give me my earnest money back, and we're gonna walk away from the deal. And so it really is, but again, why do the sellers like the earnest money? If I'm selling something and I have 100 people sending me offers and one person says they want to buy it, they want to know that you're serious about it. So once you give them whatever it is, $1,000, $5,000, whatever it winds up being, the amount isn't really that important. It's just the action of giving it over to them and protecting that period for you to do all those investigations. And again, not that I am here as a realtor, but I do also do development as well. In Costa Rica, I own a rock crusher, and we built the National Highway 160 as well as 2 different ferry terminals. And so I do have a lot of construction experience. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've had more construction experience than every inspector that I've worked with, and so I'm very happy to use that expertise to negotiate credits for you when it comes time to go ahead and actually, get those credits. So, what Pastor Aaron was talking about as well is that Peter was also referring to it as well, is that the seller can pay for your closing costs. The seller can pay for your closing costs outside of the down payment. And that's what the real secret of what we're doing here today. That one slide where it had those 3 different areas of where you can get the money from, all of this is fine and good, but at the end of the day, what are we empowering people to do with this? We're saying that if you get money from these 3 different pools, you don't even have to come up with money on your own to be able to buy a home. And so for you to go from renter to owner is just deciding, hey, I'm gonna make a decision now to make a little bit of effort over the next few months to be able to go from a renter to an owner. And most importantly, once you're an owner, we're happy to help you the entire way. Negotiating your property taxes with the county, making sure that you're working with good insurance companies. We're happy to guide you through the entire way to ensure that you have success. But again, the ability to go from, without any extra money, no down payment, no additional money to just own is very important. And at the very beginning, I was talking about these so right now I'm doing a development deal in Honduras where it's $260 million is the value of the project that we're working on. A very, very big deal. And a lot of people are gonna make a lot of money off of this deal that we're working on, which is great, but all the people who are making money already had money. This isn't gonna, I don't know how else to describe this. Regardless of how much money they make on that deal, it's not gonna change their lives. It's not gonna better the lives of their kids. It's not gonna better the lives of their community or their neighbors. What we're talking about here is helping anyone, yourselves included, or any friends that you have who are currently renting, and in, not that renting isn't unstable, but it's less stable than owning. You have less decision over your future. You have less control over being able to stay within your own community. So really what this is, again, is taking the money from those 3 different pools, believe it or not. That's how the people who are doing $260 million are doing it. They're not using their own money, they're using other people's money to do it as well, right? And so it really is the idea of using the same tactics that these very big international companies do and distilling it down for the individual and being able to use those same strategies here in Evanston to help people stay in their community. But thank you so much for your time, everyone. Yes, thank you, we appreciate it. Please, let's give an applause to Pastor Aaron as well as to Peter G. So at this point, absolutely, yes, absolutely. So again, we're also happy to talk about this as well. So we are launching for the first time a property tax appeal company as well. And so again, we've had so much, yes, thank you so much, Tristan. And so actually, Tristan, would you like to introduce the concept if you would like? So he's our partner in the property taxes. Would you like to come up and talk, or how do you feel? You should, okay, I'll introduce it then. Well, so Tristan, he's our partner in this property tax appeal company that we're working with. And so the way that, again, I worry about other people more than the other people worry about themselves sometimes. Cook County, unfortunately, the way that property taxes work is that they will randomly tell you that your property taxes are open for appeal today. They won't tell you when today is going to be. They'll just tell you they're open today. And then you have 30 days from that moment to go ahead and appeal your property taxes. And if you miss that window of opportunity, you've just missed it for the entire year. And I think it's very unfair for families who travel or just busy families. You know, it would be one thing if they told you, you who live in this area, every year in September, you need to go ahead and submit your property tax appeal. That's something that people can schedule for and busy families can accommodate. This thing where they just release it out of nowhere, and if you missed it, you missed it, we believe is deeply unfair. And so we're starting a property tax law firm that we're going to be the first in Chicago to do this, or in the entire Cook County area, where you can proactively sign up with us, and you sign a limited power of attorney that authorizes us to appeal the property tax whenever the county decides to make it available for you. So for the first time, we're never going to have a situation where we're trying to track down someone and make sure we collect their signature in that little sacred 30-day period. We're going to be able to make sure that everyone every year is reliably appealing their property taxes. And we should do a whole nother presentation on this. And so the reason why the South Side of Chicago is the way that it is simply because people aren't repeatedly in mass appealing their property taxes, whereas people in the north and northwest sides are. And if you and your neighbors don't persistently appeal your property taxes, the county is happy to overcharge you and all your neighbors for it. And if you look at it, it's the exact same maps of redlining is where you can see that this exact same issue with unfair property taxes is happening as well. But that's a concept for another day. That's after everybody owns their property and we're able to help you out. But for right now, though, definitely, I think we'd be happy to invite. So everyone who's joining us online, if you go to the next slide, there should be a slide. Let me see. Exactly. So for everyone who's joining us online, our breakout sessions are going to be hosted by Dr. Gonzalo Chavez Madison. He is our one of the transaction coordinators. So again, he's one of the people who, if you work with us, he'll be kind of in charge of everything for you. He'll make sure that your pre-approval is in on time. He'll make sure that we're looking at the right properties. Once you're under attorney review, he's going to make sure that all the inspectors are coordinating everything correctly and to make sure that your deal is going to be properly protected during attorney review. And so please, everyone who's joining us online, feel free to ask Gonzalo any of the questions that we've asked as well. He also has access to our scheduling, so he's going to be scheduling follow-up meetings with any of the individuals online who would like to meet with us as well. And then for everyone that's here in person, we're just going to go ahead and break up into two different areas. So I will be, am I staying here? Okay, or am I going? I'm going there? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be going to the other room. So anyone who's interested in real estate questions in terms of how does Zenlist work, I'm happy to sit next to you and help you download the app on your phone. Also, if you haven't registered yet for the event, we'll be able to help you do that as well. It's important that you register because, again, in addition to the government grants, us three together, we're giving you $500 on top of whatever else we can get for you just for coming here and learning about this event. And again, we really do want you to feel empowered. We want you to be ambassadors. This information, it's not a secret. It's in certain communities, this is not a secret. This is what everyone's talking about, right? I want this information to be as easy to access within our communities as well. And that's really the goal of these series. So everyone joining us online and everyone here again, so we'll be doing this once a month. Every month we'll be talking about a different Stoic strategy to be able to implement you to have success with your real estate investments, or just creating community and being able to have a place to reliably call home, correct? And like I said, this one is for turning renters into homeowners. We have one coming up that's going to be called house hacking. So it's essentially if you're a renter or you have a single family home and you'd like to go ahead and become a landlord and get a 2 to 4 unit building, we'll be telling you how to do that. Cody Williams is here right now, so he's a member of the team. He's our short-term rental specialist, and so he's the person that if you have, let's say if you're going on vacation for a couple of months, if you want to go on vacation, he's able to take your home, put it on Airbnb, and you can get the money to pay for your vacation just from renting your home when you're not in it. I know, and again, I'm mentioning that just for homeowners. Again, for people who own multiple properties, Cody does, it's more than just funding vacations. He funds entire lifestyles and international businesses. But again, We know that it's way too much information to talk all at once. That's why we're breaking it down into basically a digestible once-a-month event. We're going to talk about these Stoic strategies. You're not going to use them all at once, right? But the idea is that hopefully over your lifetime and over all the friends and family's lifetimes, you'll be aware of all the opportunities that are available to you, and you'll be able to take advantage of them.
Thank you, Peter Lopresti. Thank you, Peter Georgitis. Thank you for everything. Directions. We're going to go into the back. We'll have 2 breakout sessions. The real estate, home buying is on one end, and then the finance is on the other end. For everyone who's here, we're going to have 2 sessions. We're going back to school where we have the bell, all right? Please sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with Peter Georgitis. Sit down, tell him your situation, all right? And we will figure out a solution or find an opportunity for you to consider. Does that mean that anybody here has a problem that you should be embarrassed about, or that there is something that you should hold close to the breast? No. If you're a homeowner, we want you to consider increasing your portfolio, being very direct. I'm standing on the shoulders of Heisel Taylor, who talked and tried to organize Black Evanstonians about home ownership well over 25 years ago. I wrote on him in my master's thesis when I was in graduate school, all right? In addition to that, I have a conversation with Peter Lopresti. Then I have my breakout session on the legal, asset protection, estate planning. We can guarantee probate avoidance at the closing table, right at the closing table, and then the asset protection. So meet us in the back and meet us in the breakout rooms. Thank you for joining us today.